Hello, it's me, Darkfry, the monster, and I have a story for you today. I have had an arm's-length relationship with fighting games for years. I've loved watching people play them ever since I got casually into Tekken as a kid, but never invested the time or effort to actually get into them. Smash was the only one I really understood and the one I played the most. The rest I just watched, admiring how cool they are from a distance. Guilty Gear Xrd especially was a favorite of mine. It's just so cool and it has Slayer and Biken in it. Just look at this game, it looks incredible, but also, what the heck is happening? I would have probably gotten hooked with Xrd if it wasn't so intimidating, and after failing to play Tekken, I just stayed as an invested spectator. It wasn't until Guilty Gear Strive came out earlier this year that I finally took a big, juicy chomp out of what fighting games have to offer. I went from never touching a fighting game to doing stuff like this.
But I will fight it till the day I die!
So how did that happen, and why? Fighting games are notorious for having high skill floors and being difficult to get into. So what is it that made Strive so appealing and accessible to me and so many others? What does accessibility mean for fighting games, and why has it become such a dreaded word in the fighting game community? I want to explore these questions because there's a bit of a fighting game revolution happening right now, and it is exciting. Boy oh boy, I have to talk about difficulty again. Fuck!
No need for talk. Let's do this.
This is the path of my destiny.
Round 1. Fight!
Competitive online games have a reputation of being hard to get into, and for good reason. Difficulty in online environments doesn't come from the design of the game, it comes from the other players, and that can cause problems. Unless a game is brand new or super popular, then it is populated by people who have been playing that game for years. If it's populated at all, that is. Even if a game is popular and full of both casual and skilled players, things like smurfing or a lackluster matchmaking system can lead into a brutal learning curve. It's not uncommon as a new player to just get demolished by infinitely more experienced players while you're still just trying to understand what any of this means. This experience can be a bit more enjoyable if you're playing with friends. One of the most common reasons people want to get into these games in the first place is because their friends are playing them. That's the crutch these games rely on to get more people on board. They don't have much design-wise to bring new players in, their tutorial and single-player modes are either lacking or non-existent. They mostly just throw you into an arena with sharks, lions, and the occasional gremlin, and go, good luck, have fun! Developers and publishers end up relying on the community to onboard new players for them. Fighting games throw all of that out the window. Even though they are multiplayer games, at their core, they are solo experiences. As the player, you're on your own. In a team-based game, having a friend who's very skilled at it makes the experience and learning curve easier. In fighting games, a skilled friend might actually make it worse. So, what does this say about the accessibility of fighting games? Keep in mind that I'm not using the definition of accessibility I used in my Dark Souls video, that being accessibility options. Fighting games can't really offer much when it comes to conventional accessibility options due to their PvP nature and how they're designed. The best they can do is control remapping and macros for moves where you have to push multiple buttons at the same time. What I mean here is the more general definition people use. How easily can someone access the fun of a game? In that sense, saying fighting games are inaccessible wouldn't be entirely right. Many people buy fighting games just to play them casually with friends locally, or do the single-player content. Competitively, however, they're a very different story. If you want to be part of the fighting game community and really bite into the meat of these games, and take the time to learn and execute the mechanics they have to offer, get good, learn combos, learn tech, and play competitively, you have a tough road ahead of you, and that is by design.
Fusion! Ha! I am neither Goku nor Vegeta. I'm the guy who's going to stop you. Are you ready?
So what is the process of learning a fighting game? You pick up the game, you do the tutorial, if there is one. You pick a character you think looks cool, and you spend some time labbing their moves. Then you feel pretty confident you want to go online for some competitive matches, and you probably get your ass kicked. You might win some games, but you will lose a lot too. It's part of the process. You cannot avoid it. The single biggest barrier of entry for a newcomer to a fighting game is the simple fact that losing blows. You will get beat down. You will spend hours labbing combos only to drop them in actual matches. You will find people using cheap tactics that you as a newbie have no idea how to deal with. Point is, you will lose a lot, and losing isn't fun. The sheer amount of things you have to learn certainly doesn't help either. Fighting games are some of the most complex and technical games out there. If you want to learn them, it's hard to even know where to start. That may seem counterintuitive. After all, compared to this looks a lot easier to understand. Someone on the left, someone on the right, they fight. Whoever's health reaches 0 first loses. How complicated can this be? Well, attacking and blocking and dashing and dodging already seems simple so far. Whiffing and punishing, fishing and countering. Hey, what the heck is this bar? Rolling cancels and supers, V triggers, EXs, and all of this just for offense. Blocking overheads, low attacks, teching and backdashing, bursting and playing defense. There's lightweights and heavies and marksmen and zoners and grapplers and jacks of all trades. Punching and kicking and fireballs, magic and gun, superpowers and blades. Stances and setups, unblockables, footsies and netcode and rollback and ping. Cancels and gatlings, reverse speed and linking, and yes, these are not the same thing. There's meaties, okism, and fuzzy tech, fuzzy guard, death throws and matchups and lore. DPs and flash kicks and pretzels and circles and abominations and more. Fundamentals and gimmicks and matchups and knowledge to counter picks, mana and tears. Safe unblocked frame data, hit confirms touch of death combos, which everyone fears.
Please just make it stop!
Fighting games are an amalgamation of complex, dense, and sometimes baffling mechanics that make them a nightmare, both to understand and execute. Moves require complex inputs to perform them, and being able to combo these together takes a lot of practice. Some games try to teach you combos, but just do it by throwing you in the deep end. What is this nightmare? Every character also has inputs and mechanics unique to them, so not only do you have to learn the mechanics of the game, but also the mechanics of each character. In Strive, for example, someone playing Nagoriyuki is playing an entirely different video game than someone playing Chip. When you hear the phrase, learning a game, naturally you think of tutorials. However, fighting game tutorials are notoriously bad. either because they are nearly non-existent due to the arcade origins of the genre, or they are... What is it? There's like 80 tutorials. Oh my god. This is a bit of a necessary evil, however. If your game is PvP and has many complex mechanics, you have to teach them to every player, so there really isn't a much better way of conveying everything. So, what gives? The design of these games seems to be very unorthodox. How can fighting game designers make their games more appealing to more people? Who are these games for? Fighting games are an odd bunch. They use very different metrics than other genres since they have two target audiences that have a very clear divide between them. The more casual audience is the one that usually drives up sales, but the longevity of each game relies heavily on its hardcore competitive player base. These two groups are attracted by different things. Casual players are usually attracted to aesthetics and coolness. A lot of casual players will have this thought process in some way, shape, or form when deciding to get into a fighting game. This game looks sick and this character looks awesome, I want to play as them and do cool things! It really is as simple as that sometimes. Visuals, aesthetics, and character designs are really important in fighting games. Single-player content is appreciated, but doesn't usually play a big role in attracting players. Not many people get into fighting games for the story. As famous game developer John Carmack once said, "Story in a fighting game is like story in a porn movie. You expect it to be there, but you're here for the two people slapping each other around and having a good time." Tryhards go a step further. Casuals want to play a cool character, do cool things, and have fun doing it. Tryhards want the same, but they commit to learning the specific mechanics, frame data, matchups, counters, strategies, and playstyles to do the coolest and most effective plays. The tryhards are the people who will play a game for years if they vibe with it, and the ones keeping the games alive and populated. But they are vastly outnumbered by the casual players. The goal of every fighting game is to appeal to casual players to drive up sales, and then turn those casuals into tryhards. To do that, you need to give those players reasons to keep playing the game after they buy it. The way you do this is not by making the game simple and accessible. It doesn't work. That approach leads to a game like Fantasy Strike. Fantasy Strike is a free-to-play fighting game on PC. When it comes to price and hardware, you can't get more accessible than that. And yet, it, isn't doing so hot. Don't get me wrong, Fantasy Strike is a fun game. It's not bland or bare bones, but it does reduce the genre to its core components. Once you master its simple systems, there's not much reason to keep playing. It has a low skill floor, but also a low skill ceiling. Not only that, but simplifying the game doesn't solve the massive skill gap between players. You need a good ranking system that is decently populated so you can find matches for every player with someone on their skill level, from casual to pro. Aside from that though, how do you keep a casual player playing the game? There's an excellent thread by Rivals of Aether creator Dan Fornacci on how to approach this effectively.
After 8 years of working in fighting games, I've accepted that no matter how easy you make your game, pros will absolutely demolish new players. During my time on Rivals, I learned that you don't need to ask how to make things easier for new players. Instead, focus on making the most basic actions feel good, and each new thing they learn feel even cooler. Not everyone will learn how deep your systems go, just like not everyone will play past the first zone in a single-player game. But focus on making the game fun for them, even if they just scratch the surface.
You've heard the phrase, easy to learn, hard to master, right? A more accurate version of that for fighting games would be cool to learn, cooler to master. Doing simple things should feel cool, but learning new and more complex things should feel amazing. Fighting games are at their most fun when you're learning them and discovering all the badass things you can do. When you fight someone and they do a sick combo on you you've never seen before, and you go, I want to do that, so you lab it for a bit and then you pull it off and you feel like a god. Something a lot of anime fighting games use to do this are auto combos. In games like Persona 4AU, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and most recently Melty Blood Type Lumina, no matter which character you pick, you can press a button consecutively to automatically do a simple yet effective combo. At first glance, this seems like a bad idea, right? Doesn't this just encourage button mashing? Not really. Auto combos are a great way for newcomers and casuals to be able to do cool looking combos, and they make switching characters easy and fun. However, they are not a substitute for learning the mechanics. A casual player can get by with just the auto combos, but if you want to play competitively, you have to take off the training wheels. Auto combos will not consistently work on someone who knows what they're doing, so you have to go beyond that and learn one of the most fundamental skills in a fighting game: the mix-up. This means finding ways to expand your arsenal of moves and combos so that you have more options in every situation, getting creative and finding playstyles that suit you to enhance your gameplay. It's what a lot of people love about fighting games. It's what we in the biz call player expression and freedom. Here's a good example from Melty Blood. Say you're playing as Vlav, the coolest character. You can do a light attack at close range and initiate an auto combo. But what if they guard it? Instead of continuing the combo, you can go for a throw. Or you can cancel to your Rekka special that will keep them blocking, and then do your command grab follow-up that does a lot of damage and leaves you an advantage. From there, though, you have more things you can consider. What if they shield the Rekka and counter it? You have to start making interesting decisions for every situation, and at that point, fighting games begin to unfold before you. You start to see what they truly have to offer, and after that, it's a slippery slope. Let's say you find a character that really speaks to you. You enjoy their playstyle a lot, so you decide to main them. Then you go, I wonder how the other characters do against my main. Boom. Now, all of a sudden, you find yourself caring about matchups. Oh, they updated the game! Did they change my main at all? Did they make my main stronger, weaker? Now you care about patch notes. There is no going back. It's an amazing process, and it's a fun slide to go down. I feel like I am at the beginning of this process with Type Lumina, and it's so exciting. The inclusion of auto combos in Melty Blood Type Lumina is excellent. Even as a complete newcomer, simply by doing the tutorial and trying out characters, I immediately felt like I was playing Melty Blood. I can't wait to play and experiment more and find my character and playstyle. This game is mad fun. So, to summarize, surface level things like good soundtrack and visuals are important because they attract casual players. The systems should feel satisfying even if you scratch the surface, and good netcode with a well-implemented and populated ranking system. This is what makes the perfect gateway drug fighting game, to both introduce new players to the genre and have them enjoy all of its highs and lows. Guilty Gear Strive may not have auto combos, but it absolutely succeeds in all of these.
I know who I am. That moonlight lake told me this is who you are.
Out of season swallow, so that's me, non-stop. Guilty Gear Strive fucking rules. There's a reason this game is doing so well ever since it came out. It's just so awesome! Okay, so this list, yeah? Let's go through it one by one. Good OST? Just listen to it!
Nobody is gone. I'm just saying the step body, do it our turn. So freak out, yes, nobody is wrong. You and I both just have a views, that's all.
So that's me, not stop, let's stop. I will follow you wherever you go.
Fly like a tiger, walk in the park. Play the hero till I die.
Good visuals. Fuck. Awesome, cool characters. Okay, so no matter how much you like the music, visuals, or mechanics, you won't keep playing a game if you don't find a character you really vibe with. It really helps that Guilty Gear Strive has god-tier character designs, so take your pick. Want an American ex-drug addict who became a ninja, wants to be the president, and rushes down opponents relentlessly? Chip is your man! Want a Brazilian secret agent that has a spirit wolf as a weapon? Of course you do! Secretary of Defense, who ironically is a monster of offense that wields a coffin with an alien in it? Sure! Every single character in this game except Ramlethal is awesome, and that is a huge reason for its success and appeal. I admit that one of the main things that keeps me playing this game is the fact that Nagoriyuki is in it. Okay, so Nagoriyuki is my main and one of the coolest characters in any fighting game, so I'm giving myself 60 seconds to just gush about him a bit. Nagoriyuki makes my goopy game design brain very happy. He takes high risk, high reward to the absolute extreme, meaning that his gameplay is always very methodical and precise, but pulling it off and just nuking someone off the face of the earth is pure crack. He has insane strengths and insane weaknesses. Playing him is always interesting and fun. He has so many playstyles you can do. Want to play Berserker Nago? Go balls to the wall and spam your specials just to style on people and then fight them in Blood Rage mode? Fuck yeah! Want to play a methodical mix-up game that keeps the opponent guessing, which basically turns Nago into a grappler? Sure! My personal favorite is just standing there, menacingly, fishing for approaches. And once they take the bait, make them fucking regret it! His 6P was one of the best in the game, and they buffed it! Now it serves you a full-course meal of knuckle sandwich! His 6H is the most satisfying move in the game to counter hit. Also, did I mention that he's a freaking vampire samurai? Just look at it! Let's talk about gameplay mechanics. Before Strive even came out, there was a bit of controversy between longtime fans of the series because the devs made some drastic changes to Strive when compared to the previous game, Guilty Gear Xrd. Some people didn't much appreciate the game being simplified. Guilty Gear Xrd is a fantastic game, one that I've been watching for quite a while now. Tournaments of this game are crazy, intense, and tons of fun. Even then, my reaction to their decision to simplify it was good. Xrd is a ruthlessly complex game. It has one of the most intimidating barriers of entry I've ever seen in a genre that is notorious for its inaccessibility. Strive isn't simple, it's simple by comparison. Mechanical depth is something that's almost inherent in the fighting game genre, and Strive is no exception. It made the core actions and mechanics simple to understand and execute, while also giving players tools that are so versatile that they allow for infinite exploration and freedom. Strive's gameplay is as meaty and juicy as Ramlethal's legs, and it's because of the genius Roman cancel system. The Roman cancel is a system that allows you to circumvent some of the game's basic mechanics to give you more freedom. The red Roman cancel is this little burst that launches your opponent and allows you to extend a combo that wouldn't be possible otherwise. With the purple Roman cancel, you can cancel a move's recovery, making it safe and unpunishable. This is the craziest out of all of them by far, and allows for some truly nutty things. The yellow Roman cancel can be done while blocking, and is a slight annoyance for your opponent who will just continue relentlessly attacking you after it's done. Seriously, the yellow Roman cancel is mega underwhelming. Do not use it unless you're stuck in the corner and against very specific attacks. It's almost never worth the meter. Arxis, please buff the yellow RC. This game needs better defensive options. Anyway, the blue Roman cancel slows down time for a bit and exists specifically so that Potemkin can do this. With the Roman cancel, anything is possible. Extend combos, make moves safe, do crazy schmix-ups. The world is your oyster. As long as you have meter, of course. The fact that most of the freedom is relegated to the Roman cancel, which costs bar, essentially makes Strive a resource management game. It has very big implications on its gameplay flow, and people's opinions vary heavily on this. But I personally really like it because there is always an interesting decision to make on how and when you spend your meter, and what you can get out of each Roman cancel. It makes gameplay very engaging, especially when my opponent uses it in a clever way that catches me off guard. It keeps me on my toes, always thinking of clever ways to use the system to my advantage. And when I do a nasty mix-up with it, I get a smile the size of Angie's tits. Another excellent thing that Strive does is the wall break mechanic. Getting a wall break is rewarding, it does extra damage and gives you more meter, but it also returns both players to neutral, forcing the one who broke the wall to use the meter they just gained to continue their offense, and giving the one on the receiving end a chance to fight back. It makes fights more of a back and forth. While in other Guilty Gears, if you got stuck in the corner, then that was pretty much it. Good games. Wall break is a bit of a double-edged sword though, because when you fight Ram, it becomes your worst nightmare. God damn it, Ram! And your beautiful feet! The only thing that I find a bit unintuitive with Strive's mechanics is overhead and low attacks. Overheads hit from above and are effective against crouching opponents. Low attacks hit low and bypass standing block. The properties of the moves have to do with the height at which they hit. So, why is this a low, but this isn't? They're the same height! There's a lot of moves that have deceiving animations like this. Nago's spinny move looks like a low, but it isn't. Nago's forward heavy looks like an overhead, but it isn't. This one is strange to me especially because it's a slow move like overheads typically are and hits from above. It has all the characteristics of an overhead except actually being an overhead. Anji's projectile Fujin follow-up isn't a low despite literally being on the ground. I don't know if this is a super common thing in fighting games, but these tricky animations really messed me up during games, and it didn't feel good. This was probably an intentional decision too, since high-low mix-ups is something that characters like Ino rely on. But still, me no likey. Strive's netcode is also among the best in the genre. The tower ranking system combined with its excellent rollback makes online matches work like a dream. And against people of your skill level, people you can have fun with, people you have a chance against, people you can learn from. Strive does have one major flaw though. The menus, loading times, and lobbies are god-awful. The gameplay and online are great, but actually getting to them is harder than it needs to be. The lobbies are needlessly complicated, and this game communicates more with the server than I do with my parents. I miss my dad. It's a shame. It seems like a small thing, but it's how you access all of the cool things of the game. It could really do with some fine-tuning. I said at the beginning of this video that there is a fighting game revolution happening right now. What does that mean? There's a big shift in design philosophy in the more recent fighting games. They're finally moving away from their arcade roots. Gone are the days of high skill floors and games designed to eat your quarters. The focus now is to make low-level play feel fun for newcomers and casual players, while keeping the depth and freedom longtime fans love about the genre, and it's been paying off. With their bombastic visuals and gameplay, Strive, Type Lumina, and currently KOFXV are generating a lot of hype. Type Lumina is many people's first Melty Blood, Strive is many people's first Guilty Gear, and I'm sure that KOFXV will also do really well and be many people's first King of Fighters. These games are creating fighting game fans like never before. It's also very rare for so many fighting games to be released so close to each other. In 2021, we had Guilty Gear Strive in June, Melty Blood Type Lumina in September, and KOFXV early next year. That is an insane streak, and all of these games seem to be made with newcomers in mind. Remember when I talked about the brutal learning curve of fighting games earlier? It can be very punishing and unfun if you're the only newcomer and everyone else already knows what they're doing and keep demolishing you. But when a fighting game is new, everyone is going through that learning process. And that is when a fighting game is at its most fun.
All I'll say is the best time to get into a fighting game is definitely when it's brand new. And the best time after that is any other time. The best reason to get into a fighting game, or the best fighting game that you should get into, is the one that you think looks badass, has characters that you love, or has some gameplay elements that you think is sick, or maybe even has music or other single player modes. It doesn't matter. Like, if you have a reason to want to go back and get better, that's all you need. Then you'll have your game. I think finding your reason to invest into a fighting game is the most important part.
Because of the streak of new fighting games, their new design philosophy, and the hype they're generating, the appeal of fighting games is skyrocketing. Fighting games have always been appealing. I've been loving fighting games and deeply engrossed in their culture long before I started actually playing them. It feels like this genre that has this reputation of being punishing to get into for God knows how long is finally extending a helping hand to welcome new people aboard the hype train. Fighting games are an awesome genre, and they have so much to offer, and it is getting easier to experience their best moments. There is so much variety between each title. Every single one of them is unique, and they have their own strengths. You'd think these games would all be the same since it's just two people fighting, but no. Guilty Gear has more in common with Sid Meier's Civilization than it does with Tekken, and that rules. Their deep and competitive nature brings out so much expression, character, and creativity from each player through sheer gameplay. Being determined and motivated to get better and learn while having so much fun playing against other people trying to do the same is a drug unlike any other, and I am so happy that they are getting more approachable. I genuinely mean this. If fighting games look sick to you, if you are interested in them, if you've ever wanted to experience them yourself but found the barrier of entry too high, now is your chance. The time to get into fighting games is now. For me, it was Guilty Gear Strive. For you, it might be KOF, or Melty Blood, or the new Nickelodeon game. Heck, I went through the entire video without mentioning the amazing indie fighting games out there because I'm a darn fool. Point is, fighting games are more approachable and better than they've ever been. There is a game out there waiting for you. A huge thank you to all my patrons for supporting me and for being awesome, with a special shout out to Philip Church and Emstinima. Thank you all so much. If you like what I do, please consider supporting, link below.